We are learning to trust the ever-evolving rhythms of nature.
We are committed to embracing our shadow within community
and reclaiming our sovereignty.
We do this together.
That is the way.
If you're curious about our 9-month Initiate program, check out the link in the description.
Welcome to the Elemental Movement Podcast. Today it's myself, Matt Matucci, and
Eldon Vala.
And we are going to be talking about the Initiate cohort or program. What would we call that?
I'm just going with Initiate.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've been working on this for we've been working on this for over a year, but really like honing in the last few months. This word initiate, I feel like it's kind of up right now. Not kind of, it's been up. It's been up in my own sphere, in my own life. It's also been up in conversations that I've been listening to, etc. And I'd actually love for us to just begin with, what is initiate as a concept and also a program? When you hear the word initiate, what do you feel in that, Matt?
Sorry, I saw the sun in your background and the ferns, and I had a wave of nostalgia for the place that you're in, that I used to live. So I got a little thrown off of my of where I am. So let me reground.
So I just want to riff off of what you just brought in, right? So like you saw the fern, you saw the sun, and you had this wave of nostalgia. And sorry, I'm just going to jump in here, but
yeah, please.
When I'm feeling into initiate and initiation, it's a portal from one space, way of being, into another space and way of being. And that feeling of nostalgia that I heard you just reference, associated with like place, geographic place, and light at a geographic place, like the interplay of light and shadow, that actually feels like a view from within an initiatory portal, right? It's like you moved, right? That's an initiation into a new phase of your life. And so I just wanted to tie that connection. I want to pass it back over to you. That feels really important to me.
I appreciate you making my impulses, my feelings, or my thoughts that popped in become relevant to the conversation. I feel like this container that we are creating, Initiate container, is an invitation for men that are drawn to a different way of being than what is normally provided, or what is normally accepted.
So I'm being drawn into this question of, what does it mean to be initiated, and how have I experienced that in my own existence? And also, what's the point?
Yeah.
And so for me right now, if I'm reflecting on really just the last 6 years, it feels like containing it within that realm is worth doing in the interest of time. There's been a general emphasis on self-growth. And when I use the word growth, the image, like I'm looking at a bay laurel tree right now, fairly robust bay laurel tree, and the tree feels like growth. And when I say that, what I mean is there are roots that are connected to soil in a place, right? And in my own life, there have been several geographic locations within the last 6 years that I have lived in and begun the process of rooting at and learned how to be. Each of those places has offered me insights into who I am, because the soil that is there in those places, in the form of people, energies, foods, information, etc., shows me aspects of myself. And as I see those aspects of myself, I learn in relationship to the soil of that place how to be there. And that last piece, like the learning how to be there, like this is the place where I feel like I have been trapped by my ideas and ideals in the past, and actually is directly related to why I feel so drawn to supporting others in navigating portals of initiation. Because the way that I thought of myself limited and influenced in big ways the ways that I thought I could show up in these different spaces. And there is a general sense of divisiveness that I notice culturally. Within that, I tend to go towards one of two ways of being. Either I get quiet, I just keep my opinions to myself and I withdraw, which sometimes needs to happen. Or, right,
Big.
you're doing the big, I get
Yeah.
big and I assert myself aggressively.
Is there a different option?
There is a different option. There's a different option. This is where, like, so for me, initiate is a portal into warriorship. Warriorship. To be a warrior, not in the sense of being a fighter, but a true warrior in the sense that I am initiating myself constantly through the portal of learning how to be a nurturing and compassionate protector. And that can look so many different ways in so many different places. And it takes time to learn these ways and to embody them, right? Because this is not a conceptual vessel, it's an embodiment vessel.
This doesn't come from the mind. It's not intellectual. We can wax poetic here philosophically and talk about it all we want, but it's like that's just the first step, is like becoming aware of these ideas in our minds, right? And then after that, it's like, okay, how do I embody that day in and day out? And how do I, in each moment that there is that opportunity to embody that way, that different way, that third option, or many different options, right? Beyond that dichotomy that you first expressed, right? Of getting big or getting small. How do you go into this place of not playing that game of big or small, not asserting your dominance or just getting asserted a different way?
And one of the things that I've noticed for myself, well, two things. One is that I actually need other people in my life in order to even understand what that possibility is. And when I say understand, like not at an intellectual level, at like the level of resonance and vibe, where it's, and like we can all right now, every one of us here, whether listening or speaking right now, there is someone you have interacted with, that I have interacted with, that we have interacted with in our lives, who has shown us what it looks like to be a calm, centered, powerful being. When they walk in the room, you feel it. When they open their mouth, you feel it. When they stay silent and just witness what's there, you feel it. There's a level of presence to these people that is, and actually, as I'm saying this, one of the beings that taught me this was an elephant seal. Like, there's no jokey, no cheekiness here. Like, real talk. I'm on the beach with my buddy Nosh, our buddy Nosh, and an elephant seal shows up in the shallows, maybe 15 feet away from us. Sneaky elephant seal, like, just shows up. And these things are massive if you've never been around one, like bigger than my old car. And it just shows up and it pulls itself upright and it looks at me. We make direct eye contact. It looks away and it flips its snout up a couple of times and then looks back. And as it looks back, very clearly, like, zero doubt what's being communicated. I'm like, cool, I'm in your spot. I'm gonna pull my energy in. I'm gonna back up. I'm not making myself smaller. I'm just like, cool, I acknowledge you. I'm just gonna back up and I'm gonna hold myself still there for a moment. And then the elephant seal went on its way. Like, decided, okay, cool, like, you acknowledge me, you're cool, like, we'll give you your space now because you're acknowledging me in the space. That type of vibe is something that I think that happened about 5 years ago. Since that day, that elephant seal has really stuck with me as, like, this is an energy that I want to cultivate. When it's my space, how do I be present in that space fully? Like, with the side of me that has no hesitation in, like, altercation and fighting, etc. But I also don't need to put that forward. Just let it be there.
And that's exactly it. Is like, how do you, like, in that there's a necessity to cultivate within yourself a recognition of what is your space and what is their space, and where do you need to hold your boundary? Because a lot of the conventional man of today in Western society, and I don't want to put a generalization here, but there's commonalities that are present. And a lot of men and women, for that matter, a lot of people we'll just say, but we're talking about men today. Their energy expands beyond their boundary oftentimes, and they don't even recognize it. I don't even recognize it. And through my work that I've done over the last 5-6 years, I am beginning to understand just that. Oh, my energy right now is super forward, super up here. And I'm making the people around me get small because they're like, whoa, that's too much. And so it's like through cultivation, through understanding, through work and awareness, I'm cultivating that understanding of, hey, I need to find, okay, where can I have that presence? Where can I have that force and be solid in myself, but also not take over the space. It's to the point where other people can't coexist in a space with me and let their unique gifts and lights and shadows shine. And I guess shadows don't shine, but you get the point.
They might not shine, but they definitely radiate. So how, like in your own experience, in your system, how do you notice when you have gotten bigger than your boundaries?
For me, I start to feel a feeling of insecurity, but that's my own thing. I'll recognize that's when I've kind of made the mistake already. But there's also physical cues that'll happen beyond just emotional cues where I'll find myself leaning forward. I'll find my energy forward and up is a thing. I find myself disconnected from my root, my sacrum. It's a practice though.
When that like brings me back to just time. Like this is not something that happens through the level of intellect where you can just understand something in a mind-based way and then have it land and be like something you can practice. It's something it actually takes practice
to click into place.
So one of mine, go ahead.
No, and you know, to that end, something that is so valuable about stepping into this way of being, which, you know, I feel confident in saying that myself and yourself are people that have not ascended. We have not gotten there, but we are constantly day in, day out working at it. It's a practice that we are developing, we are cultivating. And it may not be even every day we get better. We are trying our best to get there, but our best might be different day to day. But there's a non-linear progression of getting more and more present, having that presence more and more often, showing up in social settings, in familial settings, in relation with others, in that different vibration than we were originally brought into as men.
No, that's great. I mean, what I'm hearing in this conversation is this place of humility that feels so, and I say place, and I gotta question that for a second, but I really mean that place. Like it's like a place inside of me that exists as humility.
Sitting there, sitting in humility.
Yeah, and there's a lot that can be experienced in humility, right? There's been an ongoing conversation with a couple people in my life around shame. I've come to see shame as a really valuable emotion.
Oh, for sure. Until it's not.
Well, until it's not. But if I let myself learn from the feeling of shame as being somewhere where I have gotten either too big or too small, somewhere where I have not actually held my fullness, then I can use it to learn how to do that. So bringing this practical, there's a moment, it's about 1.5 years ago. I'm driving in the car with my partner, Isla, and we're in a conflict. And I don't remember exactly what it was about. I don't remember exactly what was said. That part pretty much doesn't matter for me in this journey. But what I felt was she said something, and my immediate response was to get bigger and begin to assert myself. And I'm driving a car, like I'm not even looking at her. Like we're just like I'm driving, we're having a conversation, and energetically I feel myself get bigger. I feel my chest get inflated and expand. I feel my gaze change, like my eyes get a little bit harder. Feel my eyes begin to just like the muscles around my eyes start to squint. All of this happens in the blink of an eye. It's so fast. I realize like this is the energy of superiority and bringing myself higher, bigger, etc., so that I can make my stance solid. Like, this is where I am, and assert myself in that way.
Well,
But
it's
it's
not
coming
even
from that.
solid. It's just
Well, so
getting it
yeah,
above, right?
right. So but that's the way that I thought of solid,
Yes.
right? Because I'm a man,
Yes.
I got to be solid. This is how I think of solid. In reality, this is the insecurity. And so the humility piece is, shit, that just happened. Let me feel that shame of, I just
Mm-hmm.
made myself big. Like, this is the type of stance that I would get into if I was going to fight with somebody physically.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this to my partner who I have zero desire to hurt. And yet here I am hurting her through my energy.
Yeah. You're going into that energy of fighting.
And so the shame helps me to feel the impact of myself and bring myself back down.
Mm-hmm. It's grounding.
Having brought this to life a little bit in terms
Yeah.
of like what are the experiences that we're bringing forward into Initiate to work with.
Mm-hmm.
One, I want to acknowledge that this might feel a little abstract, and if it does, like, ask questions. If it doesn't and it really lands, like, this is for you.
And
So
yeah, and to that end, like the initiate work we're doing is decidedly not abstract. What the process we're working on here, that we'll be working on with a group of men over the course of a year, is one of connecting to one's own sovereignty, connecting to one's own purpose, and where you stand, like truly, not the programming outside of you that influences and makes you think this is where you stand. But it's like, oh no, where do I want to be? And then from there, expanding outward and connecting with nature within ourselves and outside of us through practice, disciplined practice, and through connection and engagement with other people seeking something similar.
So Matt, I'm wondering if you feel comfortable bringing to life a little bit more fully what we're going to be doing in a grounded, practical sense.
I guess I could start out by saying a big part of this program that we're doing is with respect to the seasons. When you brought in this piece of shame and how it kind of brought you back down to the ground, there's what comes up for me is like, we need that connection between the heavens and the earth. We are on the ground, though. Our feet are on the ground as human beings. And we as a society have lost some of that connection to the land. We are so disconnected with the way we eat our food, the way that we consume, just consume in general, right? It's whether it's media or, you know, the things we buy and the way we spend our time. And there may not be a clear path to going backwards, but going forwards, it feels to me that we need to course correct, adjust, and maybe find, okay, where can I reconnect with nature, and where can I live a life that is more balanced with the rhythms of the seasons, right? More balanced with the rhythms of the world around us. And so what we'll be doing is we'll be cultivating that together as a group through journal prompts, meditations, breath work, other practices that are specifically designed to connect us to, say, winter, or to connect us to spring, or to summer, or to fall. And what I'll say, sorry, there's deer running alongside me right now. It's pretty wild. But what I'll say, like, you know, today I was out doing a sit spot and in a zero form practice, and in it, you know, we're going into winter here. It's not quite winter, it's still fall, but it's like the transition is happening pretty soon, probably within the next month. But something that I'm finding so fascinating as I was doing this practice in the forest is the forest has changed dramatically, and all the leaves are falling. And what I noticed in my reflection today, one of them was that I could see so much further through the forest now. That's a quality of the late fall going into winter, is there's this increased vision. You don't have that busyness of summertime, that busyness of late summer or spring, for that matter, that you can reflect more and you can see more, and you have a bit more of an expansive view of your life around you. And so it's like, what a great time to be working on that sort of thing, right? I'm not going to do that reflection in the middle of summer. That would be ridiculous. That's antithetical to how nature ordained. This work we're doing is in respect to that. And the traditions we're drawing upon are ancient traditions that people who spent, generation after generation of people observing nature and drawing the wisdom from it, that we're still standing on the shoulders of those giants.
If you're curious about our 9-month Initiate program, check out the link in the description.
Practically, this looks like coming together and moving through seasons together with knowledge that for some of us will be new, for some of us will be a refresher, but regardless of where we are at, we're going to have the opportunity to revisit in a way that is carrying who we are right now through the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And noticing, like, one of the things that's the most interesting to me in connecting with the natural order of things, natural law, if you will, is to notice the disconnection that the society that I live in and the cultural conceptions that are normalized in the society, how disconnected they are from natural rhythms and flows,
Mm-hmm.
and the impact of that on my body, on my
Mm-hmm.
mind, and on my health as a system, as
Yep.
well as the health of the systems of the people who I'm connected to, directly and indirectly through culturation and the flow of people through the
Mm-hmm.
cities and towns and roads, etc. To really sit with that as a practitioner
Yeah.
and a practicer, and to notice the energetics in my system over deeper cycles of time, which, just to bring in this, in my culture of origin, the culture of origin of my bones, not my flesh, but my bones, my DNA,
Deeper.
where I come from, way
Yeah.
deeper. Like, we're talking 700 plus years ago was
Yeah.
the last time that my ancestors lived on the land that my bones came from. There's a concept called the wheel of the year, right? Which is very similar to the Taoist way of looking at the world and the cycles and seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that wheel, the circular format, feels really important to me because every season feeds all of the other seasons and is fed by all of the other seasons. It's a
Mm-hmm.
constant cycle. It does not stop. It does not go in one direction. It's not, when I say that, what I mean is it's not linear, right? There is a
Mm-hmm.
directionality to it.
Yeah.
So with that, when I look at the Gregorian calendar, and there's a start and a stop that all happen in little boxes and little lines with very little like emphasis placed on the seasonal changes within those boxes and lines, I immediately feel the disconnection in my body from what the trees are telling me. And the trees have so much information for me. So what are they showing me? And am I taking the time to actually notice it? And how does that then impact my practice and my practices? And that's something that to me actually requires the reflection and witnessing of other people, which is why bringing us together to do this as a group, as opposed to, these are practices that you and I have been doing solo and in groups for years now. But have we done it? I've not seen anybody else putting it together in this way.
Yeah. Yeah. And why does it require the witnessing and practicing with other people?
Because I can't see my own shadow without the reflection from somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, to put it in a different way, same thing though. I can't treat my own crazy. Like, we are all fucking nuts from this fucking nuts culture that we find ourselves being grown up in. How can you see the craziness of your own mind and your own constructs without the reflection of others and without the honest calling out of others, and even just the act of being witnessed by someone? And then you're able to, then it shines a light for you of like, oh my gosh, that thing that I'm doing is nuts. That makes no sense. Like, why am I doing that the way I'm doing it? But if I'm left to my own devices, just by myself practicing, it's very easy to convince myself in that jungle up here that, oh, this is how, yeah, that makes sense. That's good.
Yeah. And drawing on the wisdom of Malidoma Some, I'm not going to get the quote 100% because I don't have it in front of me, but a quote from his book Ritual: you cannot truly know yourself outside of community.
Mm-hmm.
So we are communal beings inherently. As much as we'd like to think that we've evolved, quote unquote, evolved past that, I think in a lot of ways, I have carried that belief that I don't need anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Got to do it on my own. Got to pull myself up and keep on going. It's like we actually need other people.
What are you
Just
calling it?
period.
Lone wolf syndrome?
Lone wolf syndrome.
Get
Curing
rid of
that
it.
shit.
Yeah.
And it's like I actually need to be seen by other people, both in my triumphs and my challenges. And when I am, it's
Mm-hmm.
like with you, Matt, like we've had a close relationship for a couple of years now where we've shared very transparently what's going on in our lives.
Yeah.
And there have been moments when I share shit with you that like it doesn't feel good to share it. Like it doesn't feel good to like to say it,
Yeah.
but having you receive it and just like not judge me for
Yeah.
having it,
I'm like, cool. Yeah, that happened.
and or like you did it that way.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, exactly. Like, there's something about that where it's like I want to. There's this thing of like non-judgmental, and I don't know if that's the point. It's more like the point is to like I might judge what you did as being like the
Yeah.
right way or the wrong way,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I'm just gonna sit with you through it.
Still
I'm gonna
love you.
give you my reflection. I
Yeah.
still love you. I'm still here for you.
Yeah.
And what happens when we have that?
Pretty magic.
I find center
Yeah.
personally.
Well, I mean, it allows that piece of shame, that emotion of shame, to be a acceptable emotion. It allows us to sit with our shame and to learn from it rather than stuff it down, reject it, throw it onto other people.
So dirty.
It allows us to be better people, better men, to
Yeah.
be what you first described, which is like really the purpose of this container for us ultimately is this becoming those protectors in a container of relation, in a community container, people that hold the ground and keep that ground and make other people in that space feel safe to shine their own lights and to reveal their own shadows without fear of being cast out or harmed.
I want to press on one thing that you just said. You said
Please.
to make other people feel safe.
Yeah.
And I just want to I know what you mean, but I want to
Yeah.
really frame this because
I love it. Yeah, please do.
My
Can't make
perception,
them feel
anybody
safe.
cannot
Yeah.
make anybody else feel anything.
Yeah.
And the way that we hold ourselves within space does influence the way that other people are going to feel and can feel. So
Absolutely.
part of our goal with this is to set up a container where we can actually like find courage and bravery, which are two foundational states for true warriorship, and be able to hold that together and see what happens within that. Because safety as an embodied state is something that I personally feel is our birthright as people. And I personally feel and notice that that birthright is continuously being stripped away from us. Every time I see what's happening in the world right now, that birthright, I see that birthright being stripped from other people, and I feel it being stripped from myself.
Yeah. I don't know if I fully agree with that, because on some level safety is, I mean, nature is brutal, or can be. And so sometimes you're not going to be safe. It's just the nature of things. But you can have sovereignty. The deer can be in its power as a deer up until the moment it is eviscerated by the cougar. It's not safe.
Cool.
But it is a deer. And it is living its life as a deer until it is not.
There you go. See? Better word right there. Sovereignty. Yeah. I'll take it.
And safety, though, to not diminish the importance of safety and the value of safety. And when we are in that state of growth and creation, we need to have safety. It's just not the state we're always in. It's not the state nature calls for always. That's okay.
Sure. Yeah. So there's this thread that I want to just keep pulling here, because this actually feels really integral to what we're doing. So at the heart of what we're doing is creating an environment where we can explore sovereignty
Yeah.
in a seasonal capacity
Mm-hmm.
over time, with witnesses, with accountability, with support. And within that, there are times where we're gonna feel unsafe,
Uncomfortable
period.
for sure.
Like
Yeah.
it's gonna happen, right? And when
Yeah.
I use the word unsafe, what I mean is my nervous system's gonna get aroused.
Yep.
My triggers are gonna come up.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not a bad thing. And my safety is also has the potential to get triggered, meaning that I'm in my rest, digest, parasympathetic state. I can relax. I can soften. I can let myself be where I'm at without having that stiffness in my tissues that comes from that arousal state over time. When I look at what we're doing, and then when I look at the mirror of what's happening out in the world, that second state is something that a lot of people don't have access to
Yeah.
more often than not. The first state, that arousal state, is everywhere.
No, it's a baseline very often.
Right.
Right.
And if like using that deer analogy, it's like I've got deer all over the property that we live in. They are not walking around in fear 24/7.
No.
They react when they need to. And then as soon as they feel like, okay, I'm in my space again, they're relaxed again. They're
Exactly.
munching on whatever it is that they munch on.
Exactly.
And so it's not to say that there's not a time and a place for, like, there is a time and a place for that response, that nervous system activation. And part of warriorship in my eyes is knowing its place,
Yes.
knowing how to work with it, right? Like my
Yes.
kill instinct, that is a healthy instinct.
Very
I'm
valuable.
100% okay with that instinct, and I want to actually cultivate my capacity to use it.
Yes. Yes.
And I want to know when to use it.
Don't want to be using it in the car with your partner.
No. Or
Or your
when my daughter
child.
starts acting up
Yeah.
and like is throwing a fit, like that's not the
Yeah.
time for that energy to come out.
No.
But my body did not receive the modeling
Mm-hmm.
of how to use that energy in appropriate context. It was either that energy is, when it comes up, that energy is basically just destructive. And there's no way to channel it and to use it and to know it in a really intimate way in its various cycles and seasons.
So here's something that's coming up for me right now, because I feel like
Mhm.
we've done a good job of, we have given what this container is going to look like to some degree. And we've talked about it in from many different angles. So I feel like that's well described. And what's coming up for me now is this idea of like where my growth edge is in some of this work that we're talking about, and stuff that's present for me currently, and present for me currently in my personal relationships as well as my professional work. And it's this, and so, I'm just going to dive in and talk about this if you're all right with that. It's this piece of when we're in our place, we feel our boundary, we feel our sovereignty. Okay, this is where I stand. I'm not letting my energy expand beyond that. I'm not letting people encroach upon it. And if they do encroach upon it, I put a boundary. I step back. I get out of the way, or I stand my ground. I'm like, no. I don't agree with that. I say it calmly. But what about when we need to shine a light on someone that may not want to have that light shone upon them? And we need those cojones to put that out there. But in a way, because this person, these people that we have that we're in relation with, we're not at war with them. We're not in a fight with them. But so oftentimes when we bring that up to people, it is like a fight. We're preparing for a fight. I don't know, that happens within me a lot. And I've witnessed it a lot with other people too. So I know this is not an experience that is only to me.
So you named it as your growth edge.
Yeah.
What are you finding in that growth edge for yourself?
Well, I'm finding a lot of discomfort in that, putting that out there to people and saying what needs to be said in a way that is coming from a loving space, coming from that space with warmth. I don't mean to make this conversation about me, but it feels present to bring in these edges of growth in relation to this program.
Yeah, I mean, what you said brought up some recent memories for me. One of the things that I've noticed in myself is a long-standing deep reluctance to initiate conflict in constructive
Mhm.
ways.
Yes. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say in my
Yeah.
roundabout way.
Sometimes, not sometimes, what I've noticed for myself is that I have it in my system that the only way to do conflict is with harshness,
Hmm.
cutting sharpness, and aggressiveness. There is an art to being soft and firm and sharp at the same time. And that is something that I have been learning how to do in real time,
Hmm.
with relationship to other men who are stepping out of bounds. There's an energetic of it. You spoke to this of how do I do this from a loving place? Like I'm sharing this information with you, figurative person, figurative man, because I actually want to be able to have a deeper relationship with you. And I want you to be able to cohabitate space with my partner and these other women that personally, this is from my own experience that I'm
Yeah.
around. And like right now, the way that you're showing up is making them feel unsafe.
Yeah.
So you need to check yourself, right? Here's what I'm seeing. Like you got to check yourself. Right?
Hmm.
It's from love. I've had this
Yeah.
conversation twice recently with two different
Mm.
men.
Yeah.
Very fucking uncomfortable
Yeah.
and like very much a growth edge for myself as well. So I just wanted
Yeah.
to bring that forward.
Same. Right. For mine,
Wha-
it hasn't been exclusively men. It's been women
Sure,
too.
sure.
But there's something's rotten. I feel it. I sense it. My own internal compass feels that, and I have to honor that something here is rotten. Something here needs to be addressed. It can't be
Mm-hmm,
unsaid. It has to be said, or it's going to wreak havoc within me because I'm
mm-hmm,
dishonoring myself.
mm-hmm,
So that's part of that understanding. Where am I? What is my point? What is my boundary? Where's my
mm-hmm,
sovereignty? Where am I standing? So we have to know that part first. And so that's where this whole initiate program that we're doing is learning that for ourselves and like looking into that for ourselves and supporting other men in finding that, not coming from up here, but coming from the body, from the heart.
mm-hmm.
And then from there, with that recognition of, yes, this is where things are at. And this is not right. And that can get a little challenging, right? With the word right can get a
Yeah,
little can
yeah,
get a little
yeah,
dicey because then it comes,
yeah.
we want to make sure we don't go to that place of superiority. It's just like, okay, from that grounded place, how do we bring awareness to that rot,
Mm-hmm.
to that thing that's causing undue suffering?
It's a great question, man.
And it's a question that I feel like always needs to be asked perpetually. And it's only through asking that question perpetually do we in real time, because the answer is always different. As you
Mm-hmm,
spoke to it, it's an art.
mm-hmm,
It's not, there's no formula, but the answer lies in being in that state of presence, sitting in that energetic place that we've described earlier.
mm-hmm.
And how do we get there?
Yeah.
Practice.
So what you just brought in is leading me into one of the questions that we'd asked to prepare for this,
Yeah.
uh, which was why are we qualified to do this?
Yeah. Short answers, we're not. But
The
longer
and
answer.
the well, I feel like it's because we're willing to acknowledge where we're not
Yeah.
there yet.
Yeah.
That to me is something I personally look for in teachers,
Mm-hmm.
people that I'm choosing to learn alongside with, is the humility to be able to share where our own struggles are.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, I'm not under the illusion that I have any of this shit figured out.
And
And
there are moments where I do. And then
sure,
there are moments where I definitely do not.
yeah, yeah. And there's the cycle. What I know of myself in the position of teacher, space holder, facilitator, what I value the most at this point is actually what is being learned in the container, which it's not about for me all of the information that went into building the container. Like that stuff matters, right? It matters, and it
Yes,
matters a great deal. Like I'll give it that,
it
right? It's like
does.
we've
It
done
does. Yes.
a couple decades between the two of us of work to be able to build a container like this.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of all of that work, what matters is not what happened back then. It's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Because like in this conversation, both of us have learned something in this conversation from the other person. We've had a reflection, been like,
Yeah.
ooh, actually, and that's what this is. That's what manhood, warriorship is. It's we come together and we create cycles of accountability together, not thinking that we know what X, Y, or Z is going to be. It's like what's here is what's here. Now, what can we learn?
It's a conversation. It's an honest conversation. It's not one of those conversations where one person's just talking at the one person and the other person's talking at the other person. It's one where there is a give and there's a giving and receiving. There's an exchange. There's a meeting of mutual respect. And right, in building that container, this beautiful container, and then putting in all the stuff into this container, we shake it up and we make this beautiful elixir. And we pour it out and we give it to everyone. We don't focus on the container. The container isn't the medicine. It's what's in there is the medicine.
Yeah, I just had this thought I got to share as you were saying that. I don't want to hang out with men who are going to tell me what it means to be a man, or anybody who's going to tell me what it means to be a man.
And that's not this.
Nope, we're not here. And we're not here to decide or determine or define what it means to be a man or a warrior. What I want is to bring people into a container to be who you are and to receive you as you are while you're receiving me as I am, and to learn together how to do that in a more dignified, more upright, more centered way, because we need each other to do that work. Like I can go practice that with the trees all day. They hold me easy. It's easy. Yep. We come together with other dudes. There's a different level of tension there. There's a different level of posturing.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens when we do it? What happens when we do it? There's the question. So I want to invite myself and everyone else just to relax for a sec. Notice your breath. Notice your posture and gaze. If you're still listening to this, you just listened to quite a few words, probably had quite a few thoughts and imaginings. Let all that be here. I want to close out here with a question. Is this for you? Is initiate for you? And if it is, I look forward to connecting with you.
If you're curious about our 9-month Initiate program, check out the link in the description.
When you're ready to begin your journey, visit elementalmovement.life. We'll see you there.